If you can take your seats. All right, we're going to open with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Men born and unborn.
All right, so before going forward, I wanted to take a moment of silent prayer for Diane Manning, whose family has been part of Narragansett and public service for decades. She was also one of the original founders of Rhode Island Right to Life. All right, thank you, everyone. I also have an announcement regarding a Veterans Day breakfast that is at Camden's Restaurant on Veterans Day from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. The price is $10, and it's to benefit VFW Post 916. For tickets, you can contact Rachel Clow at 218-5663. That's Rachel Clow at 218-5663. And we have a proclamation tonight declaring Narragansett a Purple Heart Town, but that is actually going to be, we're going to do that proclamation in 2 weeks because of scheduling problems that we had. So the first order of business is approval of the minutes of the October 7th, 2019 regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion approved 5-0. All right, our next item is the consent agenda. Are there any items that anyone would like to remove from the consent agenda? All right, hearing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Item number 9 is a motion to introduce, read, pass, and accept as a first reading a resolution amending the official list of parking restrictions and regulations in the town of Narragansett in accordance with the Narragansett Code of Ordinances to prohibit parking on the predominantly west side in front of odd-numbered residents the entire length of Anna Olivo Court.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. So this is a first reading of a parking ordinance. Any comments? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Item 10 is a motion to authorize the use of the miscellaneous repair and construction services contract with George Sherman Sand and Gravel Incorporated to complete foundation drain upgrades at Town Hall in the amount of $14,200.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. This item is because we have perennial puddling in the clerk's office that we're trying to fix. Any comments or questions? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Item 11 is a motion to approve the request from the Narragansett Chamber of Commerce and the Narragansett Parks and Recreation Department to conduct the annual Jingle Bell Run and Walk scheduled for December 8th, 2019, subject to approval of state and local regulations.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Anyone who wanted to speak to this? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. A motion to approve the request from the Narragansett Lions Club for their annual Lions Club Pier Plunge scheduled for January 1st, 2020 from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the town beach, subject to state and local regulations.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Item 13 is a motion to introduce, read, pass, and accept as a first reading an ordinance and amendment of Chapter 731 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Narragansett, Rhode Island, entitled Zoning, specifically to amend the zoning map to modify the limitation on uses for the property at 707 Point Judith Road, Plat Y4, Lot 4, Zone BB and R80.
So moved.
Second.
All right, discussion. If you recall, there was a public hearing on this at the last meeting. Any comments or questions? It's a first reading. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Item 14 is a motion to read, pass, and adopt as a second reading an ordinance and amendment of Chapter 78, Article 2 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Narragansett, Rhode Island, entitled Utilities, Water Rates, and Charges.
So moved.
Second.
This is a second reading. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Item 15 is a motion to award the bid for water storage tanks inspection and interior cleaning to Underwater Solutions Incorporated in the amount of $18,890.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Item 16 is a motion to read, pass, and adopt as a second reading an ordinance and amendment of Chapter 14, Article 11 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Narragansett, Rhode Island, entitled Peddlers, Solicitors, and Itinerant Vendors, to comply with the Rhode Island General Assembly's passage of 2018 S2502B, which established regulation of mobile food establishments.
So moved.
Second.
This is a second reading. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Item 17 is a motion to receive and make a determination on the validity of a voter initiative to amend the town charter to establish procedures whereby all candidates for town council and school committee would be elected on a partisan basis.
So moved.
Is there a second?
We have to vote on it.
Second. I'm not crazy about that.
All right, discussion. So this item, this is with and we're familiar with this with the town charter. This is the initiative process. This is the very first step in the initiative process. And so what happens is a sponsor comes forward and has a question that he puts forward to the town solicitor, and then the town solicitor has to come back to provide a memo to the town council regarding his advice regarding the validity of the initiative. So before commenting on the underlying issue, I'm going to turn it over to our town solicitor to just explain how we got here.
Good evening. On September 30th, 2019, the clerk forwarded me a petition submitted by Winters B. Hames III. The petition properly referred to Section 1-4-6, entitled Enactment and Repeal. That section provides that any law, resolution, ordinance, amendment, or other action enacted by the initiative process shall only be repealed or amended by the initiative process. That's important because the petition that Winters submitted addresses a voter initiative that was approved in 1988. So in 1988, the voters approved a voter initiative to elect candidates for town council and school committee on a nonpartisan basis. Therefore, pursuant to Section 1-4-6, that can only be changed by an initiative. So Winters submitted a petition to reverse that 1988 initiative and asks that those elections be made on a partisan basis, that issue be put on the ballot if all the signatures are obtained and validated. So I won't go into all the specifics. He wants to switch it from, he wants the question of switching it from nonpartisan to partisan, and the layout of the actual ballot to change. And it's spelled out on the attachments what Winters is suggesting the layout be. So I reviewed all the pertinent sections of the charter, and it's my opinion that the petition is legally permissible. And as such, I recommend that the town council find the petition to be valid and move the process forward.
And then the next step after that would be then the collection of the signatures, correct?
The first collection of the signatures, and then they go off to the board. They're turned into the clerk. The clerk then turns them into the board of canvassers. They're validated. They come back, and there's all timetables for all that to happen.
All right, is the sponsor here? Okay. Does anyone from the council wish to state anything regarding this?
No, here he is.
Oh.
Here he is, Johnny.
Sorry, I'm late. What can
questions about?
It's just, we asked if the sponsor was here, so if you wanted to if you wanted to talk about why you sponsored this item.
Which one? The
He's trying to go back to.
nonpartisan one?
Yeah, you want to go back to partisan ballots instead of nonpartisan ballots in the town of Narragansett. Correct.
I simply think everybody, every voter needs to know as much information as they possibly can about the people who are running. And this is just another way of knowing something about the candidates. In the old days when we were separated, when we were partisan, each committee would screen their candidates, put their candidates forward, and endorse their candidates. And it seemed to give the people of the town a little bit more confidence in the people who were running.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Richard, is there anyone from the council at this time?
So just a quick clarification. Last time we had this up, I believe that Mr. Himes will be meeting with you, Jim, to determine the exact language. Has that meeting taken place?
The recall.
The recall? Okay.
Yes, I'm working on that. So I told him I would meet him again this week.
So basically, this is going to restore, so the nonpartisan ballot that was put forward in the late 80s was kind of seen as a reform for the town, and it's something that encourages a more informed electorate, right? People have to go out, they have to look at the issue positions, they've got to look at the background of the individual candidates. It encourages people to be more attuned to the election instead of simply check off a list of Democrats or Republicans. So this is really a significant step kind of backwards. If you look across the most populous cities in the nation, the 30 most popular according to the National League of Cities, there's 22 of them have a nonpartisan ballot. There's, I looked back when I had argued against eliminating the master lever back when I was brand new to the council, and in my blue sheet then describing why we needed to get rid of the master lever, which was seen as a machine-oriented tool. The town of Narragansett is one of several towns in the state of Rhode Island has reformed its voting procedures by instituting nonpartisan local elections for its town council and school committee races. This reform ensures greater and fairer competition in local elections by removing partisan labels from the ballot for town council and school committee candidates. It encourages voters to get to know each candidate's positions, personal strengths and weaknesses, and overall commitment to the town rather than simply rely on a partisan label next to a candidate's name to guide the votes. We're going back to machine politics is what's going to happen. That people in the country have been saying for years they want to get away from that we shouldn't be beholden to the two-party stranglehold. And there's a lot of research on this. And I also want to point out, this really has nothing to do, we had 3 initiatives before, and one of them was, some were related to the library issue. This is not related to that, so I just want to kind of put that out there. This is a whole different way of voting that's going to change things for the town, I think for the worse. And there's a lot of work that the staff does when one of these comes forward. So, and I think that's important to think about. So anyway, that's my thought process on it. I would hope that Mr. Hames would reconsider this. Yes, Richard.
Well, as the
Just a name and address, please.
Richard Vangermersh, let's try 55 Osceola today. Speaking here as the former longest-lasting member of the Republican Town Committee, which is a real great honor. We seem to have disappeared, but that is beside the point. We might repair again. But the big thing is, are the independent voters. And that is a major change. The way we have it now, the top 10 people, well, there could be a primary of 12, 15, 18 people, only the top 10 run. In the olden days, all sorts of independents could run. So you might have 5 Democrats or 8 Democrats fighting it out to get to 5, 2 Republicans fighting out to get it to 5, but you might have 18 independents. And they can appear. It's not just a Republican-Democrat issue. It's the independents. And who knows how many there will be. And without a limit on the number of independents, anyone who gets the signatures can run. So this is, a puzzling factor that might not necessarily squelch the independents, but certainly might, without a limit on the number of independents, cause mass confusion.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Joan. Mrs. Garceau, nice to see you.
Thank you. Nice to see you all. I thank you for serving, all of you. I know you've had disagreement, but disagreement is good. Because of disagreement, we learn and makes us decide which one is accurate or not accurate, and I thank you all for serving. I have to say that in regards to this party system, I'm against labeling things, with the name of a party completely. And I'm going to tell you why. Many years ago, I went to vote in a primary, and there was one person I wanted to vote in the primary was a Republican, and the other person in the primary was a Democrat. And I, being an independent, could only pick one ballot due to the party. So the person who was in the other party, I could not vote for. To me, party affiliation in voting is no good. It doesn't belong there. We need independents, we need Democrats, we need Republicans, and we need to vote for the individuals based on what it is that they're going to do. We have a two-party system here, and the independents can choose one or the other to vote in the primary. And yet, at the same time, on an election, it's my understanding what's being proposed here this evening is due to be placed on the election ballot, correct? Is that right? That's wrong. There should be no labeling at all in anything. When someone stands in front of a supermarket, whether it's in Wakefield or in Narragansett, and they ask you to sign their nomination papers, I will sign both of them without knowing. And the reason I do that is because in a democracy, people need to come forward and try to run, give them the opportunity, at which point in time, they state their facts on why they're running and why they're not running. So you make that decision on how you vote. I'm told that from the clerk's office and others is that you can sign numerous nomination papers. It doesn't matter how many you sign. But my concern tonight is I hope that you will not vote for this. It's wrong, it's not a democracy, and it will cause more harm. Thank you kindly.
Thank you. Stanley.
Stan Wojciechowski, Narragansett. I wasn't going to speak on this, but I think just having two choices, it kind of feels like you only got two choices, Democrat or Republican. It kind of goes back to that scheme of only thinking about two choices. And, you know, sometimes I agree with something a Democrat might say. I just don't, I don't think in a town atmosphere where we almost know everyone, and eventually through the paper we know everybody's idea pretty much. So we don't need to have a label to further define it, because I think we've become a better, more informed voter when we have to search out the people individually, rather than just go there, well, I don't know who to vote for, I'll vote Democrat, because I don't know. And, you know, I started out that way years and years ago. I didn't know what they were. Well, Republican. And I think, if anything, we want to be coerced, or I'd like to see that we have to take the time and effort to look at everyone equally and not with a label of Democrat and Republican. So I hope you would not accept this going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Matt, if I may
Yes.
just add a clarification. In the ballot that Winters had proposed, the ballot is not limited to Democrats and Republicans. It's whatever party, including independents, that a candidate affiliates him or herself with. So it's not limited to two parties.
But the major parties are first, correct?
The major parties would be first.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, Al.
First, Bob.
Dr. Al Albert, 24 Eagles Nest Terrace, Narragansett, Rhode Island. First of all, I do want to thank you all for doing an exceptional job, you know, all serving, putting countless hours in. I know it's not an easy task, and I know sometimes we have differences of opinion, but, you know, as was mentioned earlier today, I think that hopefully we're all on the same page. We all want to make the best for Narragansett and its citizens, even though we have different viewpoints. On that note, I myself am against, you know, the labeling of any candidates as Republican or Democrats. I think we should judge the person and what they stand for, and I don't think we should stereotype one person as a Republican, Democrat, or even independent, because we do not know what positions one person might have in local politics. And I think that's what it comes down to in regards to what one stands for to make Narragansett the best. And if one is going to just vote for Republican because they feel they're Republican and they're not going to look into the issues, a label can mask someone. A label can mask a Democratic individual. A label can mask Republican, independent, and I don't think at the local level we need that. We need to look inside someone, see what they vet them, ask them what they truly believe in, and go from there. So, you know, and I'm sure the motion was put in out of all good intentions to try to better the balloting, but in this particular case, I feel that it's in the best interest of our entire town and all the residents not to have any kind of labeling. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, since you're the sponsor, yes.
First of all, I want to reiterate what the counselor said. It doesn't limit anybody. As many people, and to Mr. Vangermish's point, as far as limiting the number of independents that can run, as many independents can run in this as possible that want to put the money in. Historically, you have papers, but also I have papers. Historically, nonpartisan favors the people, the wealthiest people within the town that can run. I know there's some exceptions up here, but generally speaking, all the cities that you mentioned, the person with the most money will win. Look at New York City. It takes a millionaire to become the mayor of New York City. And that goes on and on. But the only thing we're discussing tonight is the validity of this. We're not discussing, is it good for the town, bad for the town? We have to go out and get the signatures, and the people will vote on it. And that's when we will determine if it goes forward or not. So the only thing that's be discussed tonight is the validity of this particular item, and that's it. All the arguments can come later, however they want to come. Thank you.
But on that note, I think that I would ask that the sponsor would maybe think about, I think if we could maybe continue this item, because I asked about the amount of time this takes, right? And I asked Terry to look that up for me, and she said between the Board of Canvassers, the time involved for research, organization, coordination with the Secretary of State for voter verification, intake and copying of petitions, verifying signatures, providing running tallies of counts to me and others, scheduling Board of Canvassers meetings, participating in meetings, preparing and posting agendas and minutes, providing certification of results, answering phone calls and in-person inquiries, we estimate each initiative required 84 staff hours, right? So we've had 3 of these. You still are working on language for one of the ballot with the town manager for the recall one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask for you to rethink this one, and I'm going to ask if there's a motion to continue this for 2 weeks.
First of all, like I said, according to our town charter, okay, it comes.
I got it, Win. Thank you.
Okay.
You've spoken, the sponsor has spoken.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
Thank you. All right.
So Mark, to clarify on this, each of the 5 of us have a vote to decide whether or not we believe that this is legally a good thing for the town of Narragansett, correct?
No.
You have a vote to determine whether it's valid.
Whether it's valid. So if I were to vote that it is not valid, would I be breaking the town charter?
If you have reasons to believe it's not valid, then it's your decision that it's not valid.
So if I believe that it's a way to have more divisiveness come into the town and it's not a good thing for a town, okay.
Well, no. I was nodding my head that I understand what you're saying. No, I don't think that would be a premise on which to determine it's valid or invalid. It may be a premise to determine whether you support it or don't support it, but that I would say that wouldn't be a premise that you could use to determine whether it's valid or not.
Several of these speakers tonight, I thought, spoke really eloquently about why it really shouldn't be valid. So I agree with them. I agree with Mrs. Garceau. Thank you for coming out on a cold night. I know you haven't been feeling well, but I think you spoke eloquently about the reasons why, and I wholeheartedly believe with everything you said.
All right. So I'm not endorsing this at this moment, but I do have some questions and some thoughts on it. Mark, so before 1988, the election in Narragansett for town council was partisan, correct?
That's correct.
All right. So the fact that it was partisan kind of proves beyond any doubt that this would be a valid petition because we already had an election that was under these terms.
It's my opinion that it's valid.
Yeah, because it already existed this way in the past. It would be kind of impossible to be invalid when it was like this for years. With that said, I think it's great to hear the people's thoughts on whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. And I enjoyed campaigning under a nonpartisan election last campaign. I liked knocking on doors and talking about the local issues and not getting into some of the national stuff and some of the party, the hard, national party lines. So I like that. I thought that was good. However, the town council should not be in a role of controlling how the elections work in town. You can't make a decision on an election that you're going to be running in. It's just kind of a conflict of interest, which is why this would go to petition and the people of the town decide if they want it to be partisan or not. And all the opinions expressed tonight are all part of that. People can listen to these point of views and make their own determination on it, but it has to go to petition, and the signatures have to be collected, and that's part of the democratic process. So it's not up to us to decide whether this goes forward. It's legal, so it should go forward. And if it gets on the ballot, then it gets on the ballot, and that's just the way it goes. So, like all the petitions we voted on, if it's legal, it's our obligation under the charter to pass it, to let it continue on. So I'm going to follow the charter, and I think we should all be doing that. So thanks.
All right, so we're up against an 8 p.m. For our public hearings. So we're going to resume this discussion after the public hearings. Is there, all right, so our first item for public hearing or decision is a motion to schedule a public hearing on the issue of amending Narragansett zoning ordinances to address the Rhode Island General Assembly's passage of S0689, which amended the definition of building height, which affects Narragansett.
So moved.
Discussion. This is scheduled for 8 p.m. for 8 p.m. on December 16th. Is that correct, Janet? Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. A motion to hold a public hearing on the application of Benny's Clam Shack LLC, David Thomas, President, 12 Sand Hill Cove Road, Narragansett, Rhode Island, Plat N, Lot 275 for a Class BV limited liquor license.
So moved.
Second.
Is the applicant for Benny's Clam Shack here? All right. All right, so this is a public hearing. Motion was approved 5-0 for opening of the public hearing. And we're going to have you sworn in by our solicitor.
Sure. Would you please state your name and address?
David Thomas, 390 Wandsworth, Narragansett, Rhode Island.
Would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
All right, welcome.
Good evening,
Go
Council.
ahead. I just want to quickly describe what your operation at Benny's.
Yes, well, it's my third location. Obviously, we opened up in July. Basically, it was full-fledged seafood, from lobsters to steamers and so what. And then I've been through the process of trying to get the beer and wine license, just to expand on not just seafood, but a little extensive menu with, some steaks and porks and fish, and just to kind of expand a little bit further than what I'm doing to get some of the locals that are in the town to come down. That's basically what, and like I said, the beer and wine would fit well with it and with what I'm doing.
All right, are there any questions from the council at this time?
Sure. How's it going?
Good, how are you, sir?
Good. So I am familiar with your location on High Street.
Yes, sir.
And I was glad to see you open a second location in South County. I think that's great. I haven't gone to your Narragansett location. Is it similar to the Wakefield? I mean, I know the Wakefield one is in that smaller structure.
Yes, yes.
So how does the Narragansett location differ?
We have about we have like 8 stools it was like a breakfast countertop, and then we have 10 tables, 9 of them being 4-tops and 1 being a 2-top. And just like I said, just trying to expand it a little more than just seafood.
Mm-hmm. And what are the hours for closing?
Right now, I'm open till 9, but I'm looking to keep it open till, if I'm able to, till last call. I mean, I do have a lot of people in the industry that are friends, and they come down and support me, if they were to watch, Monday Night Football or whatever it may be. And I do a lot of wing specials, appetizer specials, and I know the procedures, what it takes to, I have a full liquor license at my other place, and I know the procedures and making sure everything's carded and, tip certified and all that other stuff, so.
Great.
I take it very seriously. Cool. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it.
Great, thank you. And sorry, I was just looking at the application. Do you live in town here?
I do, sir.
You do?
390 Wandsworth.
Great, all right, cool, thanks.
Thank you, sir.
All All right, thank you. Anyone else from the council?
I'm good.
All right, we may call you back up. I'm going to see if there's anybody who wants to testify regarding the application from the public, because it's a public hearing.
Yes,
All
sir.
right?
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. Yep. Is there anyone who would like to testify regarding this application? Stanley? All right.
Stanley, would you state your name and address?
Stan Wojciechowski in Narragansett.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
I think, almost any eatery, really, to survive, needs that liquor license, and we should at least give it a shot to see if there's a problem. We can always fix it later, but we should allow him to have the license so he can prosper and continue to give us another menu, give us another choice. So we just don't have to have a limited number. It's nice to have another choice. So I'd support this and hope you do. Thank you.
Thank you. And is there anyone else? Yes, Mrs. Garcelle. Is a swearing in public hearing?
Oh,
Yep.
Would you state your name and address?
I'm Joan Garza, and I live on 10 Melbourne Drive, Narragansett.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. In regards to his petition, I wish him well, and I hope that you'll approve it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, is there anyone else? Yep.
Dr. Al Alba, 24 Eagles Nest Terrace, Narragansett, Rhode Island. I'm always,
Al.
I'm always,
Al, excuse me, would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Yeah. My dad, my whole family, we're all into supporting small businesses. This gentleman, I guess he has a couple of other establishments that he's operating successfully with the liquor license. So based on past practice, he's a very responsible gentleman, him and his family. So I am in support. I know we're friends with the Monahans Clam Shack. I think they were actually putting up for a liquor license too. I don't know what the status is of that, but I'm supportive of them as well, because I know them, the owners of Monahans, and I'm also relatives of the Iggy's Doughboys and Clam Shack as well. So I'm all support of small businesses. If they're responsible, doing a good job, and to help them out economically, and when you help small businesses out, I think you help the whole town out. And I just would like to wish their family well, and I hope it gets approved. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, is there anyone else? All right, is there a motion then, unless anyone has any more questions for the applicant? Is there a motion to close the
I'll
public
move that
hearing?
motion.
Second.
All right, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved 5-0. And is there a motion on the underlying liquor
I'll
license?
move that motion.
Second.
All right, so this is a move to approve the Class BV limited liquor license. All right, any discussion from the council on that? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, motion approved 5-0. Next is a motion to hold a public hearing on the renewal of alcoholic beverage licenses for the license period of December 1st, 2019 to November 30th, 2020. Is there a motion to open that public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved 5-0. All right, so this is the hearing regarding our 4 Class A liquor licenses, 5 Class BV limited liquor licenses, 3 Class BV tavern liquor licenses, 20 Class BV liquor licenses, and then 6 Class D liquor licenses. Just, this is our hearing, and these will actually, the actual licenses will be voted on at our next meeting. Is that correct? Right, well, right, it's the annual renewal, but we'll vote on it at the next meet. Is that correct? This is just the hearing. I just want to make sure. Yeah, okay. So the council in these, people can come forward, the holder of a license and the title have their license renewed, as long as the renewal application has been completed submitted in a timely manner, and that they meet all the criteria, but we also have the discretion for cause to refuse to renew a liquor license. So that's what the purpose of this is right now, if to hear from the public regarding the liquor licenses, and then, as I said, we'll be voting on the underlying licenses at our next meeting. So with that being said, is there anyone from the public that would like to testify on these renewals? All right. Any commentary from the council? So then I'll take a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion approved 5-0. And then we'll see that on our next agenda. All right.
17.
All right, so that's the closure of the hearing, so thank you. So West returns us to number 17. So we have a motion on the table. Is there further discussion from the council?
Yeah, I guess I got to squawk about this one. Yeah, I don't know what it took back in the 80s for us to go back to nonpartisan, and then we just got rid of the master lever statewide about 10 years ago, so. Okay, I guess we got rid of partisan race in the 80s, and then the master lever on the state side. I think we got rid of that about 10 years ago, so I agree with Matt that this is a step backwards. I think we just leave it the way it is. But certainly, I have to validate this because the attorney, our legal team, has said it is valid. So I have to validate this initiative. So that's my position.
All right, as I said, is there any sentiment for a motion to continue with this?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
All right, and the reason I'm doing this is I'm asking the applicant to really rethink this. We know what the process is. This is the 4th initiative, 84 hours of staff time for something that we've heard a lot of people.
The charter does not allow you to continue this. You can ask your
Thank you,
attorney.
Wynn. Thank you, Wynn.
Okay.
All right, thank you. All in favor?
Wait, so Mark, we can't continue this, right? Because
The charter provides that you'll make a determination as to the validity at the next regularly scheduled town council meeting, which is tonight. So the charter does compel you to make a determination as to the validity tonight.
thank you.
All right, this is all in favor of continuing it. All in favor? For 2 weeks to the next meeting.
Can't continue it.
I heard his advice, right? I'm asking for people to think about it for 2 weeks. That's what I'm asking for. I know that I've heard the arguments. That's what I'm asking for. I've gone through. I mean, you got to think about this, and we haven't even gotten anything on the recall initiative yet. So maybe let's focus on that, and maybe bring this one back at a later date.
So this is an intentional violation of the charter right now, if you continue this. We all can read it. Mr. Davis just told us what the charter says. We cannot continue it. And if we do, it's intentionally violating the charter.
Thank you, Jesse. All right. Yes, Mrs. Garceau.
Thank you. We're talking about a validity for an election for the people to vote on it. Is that correct? Correct. Okay. I have to say, I'm very upset in how people that are in positions of officers or so forth, that how they push for certain things and don't push for other people. I attended a board meeting with canvassers, or whatever you're called,
Board of Canvassers.
in regards to what happened to me in a primary election, that I could not vote for a person, a Republican, or a person in the Democrat. I had to take one ballot. I was an independent, which I was able to do. But I lost voting for a party member in another party. No one did anything for me like he's doing for this. So to me, there's something wrong here. Thank you.
Right, thank you. All right. It's in favor, for the motion to continue. All in favor? All right, aye. All opposed?
Abstain.
No.
Abstain.
No.
All right, so the motion fails 1-2. All right, so is there, on the underlying motion, this is the motion to receive and make a determination on the validity of a voter initiative to amend the town charter to establish procedures whereby all candidates for town council and school committee would be elected on a partisan basis. So is there a motion to make a
I'll
determination?
move that motion.
Well, and what's the determination that you want to make?
That is that to validate this initiative.
Is there a second?
That's what we're
Second.
up here for, isn't it?
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Abstain.
Abstain.
Motion approved 3-0. Item 18 is a motion to approve the town council meeting schedule for the calendar year 2020.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Next is our open forum public comment portion of the meeting. Is there anyone who would like to speak during public comment? Yes, Mr. DeStefano.
Ted DiStefano, 94 Colonel John Gardner Road. What I'm reading to you has been published in the Narragansett Times this past week, and it's about free speech at council meetings. Since the effort to destroy the hopes for a new Narragansett library began under Council President Mannix, I must say that we have had some strange and raucous meetings. There has been shouting by Narragansett residents, chanting of shame in unison, sundry accusations, and every other imaginable form of legal protest. Fortunately and rightfully, no one has been assaulted physically or has ever had his life threatened. That said, what in heaven's name prompted Councilperson Jill Lawler to propose the quorum guidelines? Her proposed ordinance for behavioral guidelines at our town meetings was a bold attempt to limit our rights under the First Amendment. Fortunately, it failed to pass. The news of this proposed agenda item spread rapidly and nationally. The ACLU got involved, and an article was even published in the U.S. News and World Report. So sadly, under this council led by Mannix and Lawler, we must look like a backwater town to so many Americans. In fact, at this meeting that I'm talking about, Representative Tansey said, what the town is lacking is leadership. I couldn't agree with her more. Why was this such an egregious motion? The ACLU said that the proposed motion sends the wrong message and can only have a chilling effect on Narragansett residents and their willingness to speak their minds at open forum sessions of council meetings. The recommended proposal would give the town council president, Mannix, virtually unbridled power to cut off speakers and control the content of what is supposed to be an open forum for public comment. The U.S. Supreme Court says that debate on public issues should be uninhibited, robust, wide open, and may include vehement, caustic, and sometimes unpleasantly sharp attacks on government officials. In other words, politicians must be thick-skinned because effectively they cannot sue for libel or slander. But as my personal attorney recently told me, quote, Ted, as a citizen, you have every right to sue for libel or slander. One final word. Before public comment, Council President Mannix admonishes the audience about appropriate behavior and comments. In my opinion, even as a non-attorney, Mannix should cease trying to put any restrictions on speakers during public comment in light of the broad rights granted to us under the First Amendment. We Narragansett residents and taxpayers have the same constitutional rights as all U.S. citizens. Thank you.
Yeah, that was a sad moment where Jill tried to make something go for civility, and she was told it was embarrassing to put on. It was a real opportunity for people to think about things, but it was a sad moment. So, Al?
Why didn't you support it? You didn't support it.
Dr. Al Albert, 24 Eagles Nest Terrace. First, I'd like to thank all of you again for your time and efforts. And I know in the deepness of your hearts, we all are trying to better Narragansett, and that's what we're all here for. So I want to applaud everyone who's here, and the town solicitor, and our town manager, and Miss Janet Tedder. Thank you for your time and expertise. I would like to lead off an introduction on the history of the Narragansett Public Library Project. And this is as prepared by the Library Board of Trustees. In the early part of this new century, it became increasingly apparent that the Maury Lugens Memorial Library in Narragansett was too small and antiquated to serve the people of the town. While many of our staff have master's degrees in library science, a major part of their day was rearranging furniture in an attempt to meet the scheduling needs and public programming access. A major Rhode Island foundation, which consistently supported the library with grants, notified us that they found it increasingly difficult to justify upgrades in our current building, and that we should refrain from filing for aid until our building program was in order. This started the library board on a mission to examine other libraries in the state of Rhode Island and see more clearly the shortcomings of the current building and the potential for a new state-of-the-art facility to serve the residents of Narragansett and all of its patrons better. One astonishing piece of good news was the discovery of the State of Rhode Island Grant and Aid Program, which reimburses up to 50% of the cost of renovating and building a town library. Like any foundation or grant-writing institution, many steps must be followed to the T to qualify for this money. And the library board commenced a study of the successful applications. While the state grant and aid program has been in effect since 1965, and every town who has filed for funds has received, on average, 43% of their building costs, Narragansett has never filed for this money, and this puts us first in line for this aid. This generous program, funded by all the taxpayers in the state, should be utilized when renovations or building a library are necessary for the community. It was this belief by the library board that our current structure is woefully inadequate to serve the needs of the town's people, and that the town should do all in its power to work with state library officials to get the maximum reimbursement for taxpayers of Narragansett.
Thank you.
That was the true start of the library project. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Just to make a note, Matt, as you talk about the 50% reimbursement, construction costs are eligible for 50% reimbursement of expenditures up to the amount of $300 per square foot for new construction, or $250 per square foot for renovation and remodeling. So the Belmont, or what I would start calling, because the Saravos have asked us not to do it, is the Gilbane building, would be a remodel. So that would be $250 per square foot. So it would not be 50%, according to the OLIS documents of funding and priorities, just so that we make that clear. Thank you.
Yes, name and address.
Tia Beckman, 43 Cherry Lane. 2008, the beginning. Members of the library board formed a building committee made up of board members to look into adopting the second floor into a much-needed space for programs. Number 2, the library board voted to form a feasibility study engaging the services of Kevin Monroe of Columbia Architects. Number 3, the feasibility study, including preliminary plans to expand the space by raising the roof to create a full second floor without increasing the foot plan of the current building. The feasibility study did not include any additional space for basic library services. Number 4, the feasibility study included a cost estimate to raise the roof, add an elevator, and add fire-rated stairs. Number 5, because of the surprisingly high cost estimate, which would not solve the limited space of the existing building, the library board chose to look at additional options for the existing building and to look elsewhere in the town for more physical space. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jane McCarthy, 27 Sewell Road, Narragansett. 2009. Number 6. The trustees met with Karen Mella, Chief of Library Services of the Rhode Island Office of Library and Information Services, known as OLIS. A, OLIS has the statewide responsibility to assist all public libraries and is the agency to distribute state funds under its OLIS Library Construction Program to reimburse construction cost of new libraries up to 50%. B, OLIS supplies 25% of the Narragansett Public Library operating budget as long as it meets 23 minimum standards specified by OLIS and the town complies of maintenance of effort, in other words, level funding, of the previous year's town library contribution. The library has repeatedly filed for waivers which relate to the actual library facility and its shortcomings, which were documented in the needs assessment completed by the library consultant in 2016. The most critical standards for which the existing library are that, 1, it does not comply with all relevant laws and regulations, specifically fire and ADA. 2, it does not provide special equipment which aids in providing material and services available due to space constraints. And 3, the building is physically too small to implement the full range of library services as determined by its long-range plan. Or, to restate, the building is too small to support the needs of a year-round population of Narragansett. The trustees learned that Narragansett was one of only a handful of other communities which had not received state library development funds, a fact which greatly increased Narragansett's chances of obtaining such funding from OLIS. D, as with other federal, state, or private foundation funding, Narragansett would need to agree to follow the procedures of the funding agency, which would include hiring a building consultant and library experience, as well as an experienced library architectural firm. 7, concurrently, the trustees began planning for a capital improvement plan known as SIP.
Thank you.
Within the town's
you.
budget. 8, the
Thank you.
trustees visited the Westerly Library for consultation on
thank
its
you.
funding project. Thank you.
Gail Shields, 37 Earls Court. 2010. In 2010, the trustees began to pursue enabling legislation for a $5 million bond for the renovation and expansion of the existing building. However, it was determined that more detailed planning would be needed to complete to support a request for the legislation. The detailed planning included options such as renovating and expanding the existing library, as well as moving to another site. 2010 to 2012, or 2011. In 2011, the trustees hired Patience Jackson, a New England library consultant, to conduct the needs assessment. It was delivered in 2012. The needs assessment examined the town, its demographics, current use of the library, and future trends. It also drew conclusions for the current and future space requirements using national standards. 2013 to 2015. In 2013 through 2015, several members of the community with professional expertise volunteered to work with the trustees to assess the many different options. These individuals were the esteemed Rhode Island architect David Presbury, Tim Sullivan, a professional construction and cost estimator, and Bob Shields, MIT graduate and engineer. On September 28, 2015, a public workshop was held with the Narragansett Town Council. The trustees, Mr. Presbury and Mr. Sullivan, presented findings about all the possible library sites in Narragansett. Many were discounted because the town properties being suggested had been acquired with open space and recreational bonds, or because the property was too small, in an inconvenient location, lacked proximity to the pier, or had insufficient parking. 4 viable sites were examined in detail with cost estimates. Renovate the existing building and add a 2-story addition along Caswell Street. Tear down and replace the existing building with a new and larger building on the same site. Construct a new library to the north of the senior center and to acquire and renovate the former Belmont Marketplace. At the public workshop, then Town Council President Matthew Mannix indicated that he favored the pier location and directed the trustees to closely examine 2 options and come back with real numbers. These options were to renovate and expand the existing library while keeping it open, and to acquire and renovate the Belmont Marketplace building.
Naomi McDonald, 30 Kingstown Road. Further analysis eliminated the option to renovate and expand the existing library. The expected construction costs were higher than the Belmont Marketplace option, and these estimates did not include many of the associated costs of moving, storage, and temporary locations. This option would mean that Narragansett would be without a fully functioning library for 2 years and would be left with no additional parking spaces at the end. The option would also result in a loss of trained staff. The library consultant deemed this option to be non-viable due to size, efficiency, and design, which would endanger state reimbursement. In 2016, the trustees meet with the director of the newly constructed Tiverton Public Library to learn about her experience and to discuss fundraising. The Narragansett Town Council voted on April 4th to submit the bond request to the General Assembly. The legislation was approved, and the November ballot included a referendum question authorizing a bond for a new library. The OLIS-approved library planning consultant was re-engaged and submitted a finalized and updated needs assessment in September, which identified future space requirements for 20 to 30 years for the year-round population, not fully accounting for the increase in usage during summer months. The trustees sent a letter of intent to OLIS notifying them that Narragansett would be applying for reimbursement under OLIS Library Construction Program. The town solicitor reviewed a draft purchase and sales agreement from Gilbane to begin negotiations. Most importantly, Narragansett voters approved a library construction bond for $5.8 million by a vote of 2-1, or 67.8% of the ballots cast.
Gloria Roman, 33 Wheatfield Cove Road. In February 2017, the Library Board of Trustees commissioned the first of 2 commercial appraisals with Andolfo Appraisal Associates. In May 2017, the trustees hired Dan Barry to develop a fundraising strategy and plan and to execute that plan. The town engineering department began work to develop an RFP to assess the condition of the Belmont building. In June 2018, the engineering due diligence report of the condition of the building is received, indicating that the Belmont building is in good condition. On October 16, 2017, the town council, in a 3-2 vote, passed the deal negotiated with Gilbane for proposed Belmont site acquisition. In November 2017, Gilbane revises its proposal and negotiations are restarted. On December 20th, 2017, the town council votes 3-2 to move forward with the agreement to acquire the Belmont Marketplace, Pier Liquor, parking spaces, and driveway access. Please note that the space of the liquor store was identified in the needs assessment to bring the new library to appropriate standards. Without the space occupied by the liquor store, extensive and expensive modifications would be necessary in the balance of the building to meet the appropriate space requirements for modern libraries, and the related costs would escalate. In January 2018, the Library Board of Trustees hires Andolfo Appraisal Associates to update the appraisal for the larger building, including the liquor store. The appraisal estimates that the commercial value of this property is to be $2.767 million. On March 5th, 2018, the Town Council voted in favor of a motion to approve the purchase and sales agreement for the purchase of the Belmont Marketplace, the liquor store space, 68 parking spaces, and public access, all for $2.8 million. The vote was yes by Councilors Bonanno, Murray, and Moretti, with Councilors Mannix and Lawler voting no. In June 2018, the results of the formal due diligence inspection report on the building structure and mechanical and electrical systems indicate that the Belmont Marketplace building is in good condition and structurally sound and will be able to function as a new library. Thank you.
Patricia Cole, 20 Bayberry Road, Narragansett. On June 4th, 2018, after the resolution of several issues, such as common area maintenance fees, the Town Council approved a motion from Town Solicitor Mark Davis, quote, that the Town Council approves the maintenance and easement agreement with GP Pier Retail, LLC, and the Town of Narragansett, unquote. The motion passed 3-2, Councilors Mannix and Lawler voting no. During August and September, the proper process was followed to subdivide the new library building from the balance of the Gilbane property. The Planning Board gave final approval on September 18th. On October 16th, 2018, the town closed on the Belmont property, resulting in the town now owning the Belmont Marketplace, liquor store space, 69 parking spaces, and public access as the site for the new Narragansett Public Library. This event was the culmination of 10 years' work by members of the community, employees of the library, and the trustees. A future home of the Narragansett Library banner was hung on the Belmont building. but a sign violation was received at the town hall during the closing. The sign was taken down. Throughout 2018, the town engineering department produced a final RFP for architectural services for the construction of the new library in the Belmont building. 3 drafts incorporated suggested changes from the trustees, OLIS, and other construction experts. Yet, at the December 3, 2018 Town Council meeting, an agenda item to send this RFP out to bid was voted to continue, that is, to defer action. During this meeting, Councilor Lawler stated that, quote, "Do I want to put up a for sale sign on the library? No, I do not on the Gilbane building," unquote. During this meeting, Councilor Lima stated, quote, "I am definitely moving forward with what I think is right for me representing my constituents in this town. Okay, this is going to be handled professionally, like a business. I'm telling you, we can continue this, and it can fly as soon as we have our information. Put the workshop out there, and then we will move forward as fast as possible. And I guarantee you, somebody might not be able to catch up when I get going," unquote. Thank you.
Carolyn Petroselli, Rockland Street. 2019 begins with a new council majority in the election of Councilor Lima. At the January 7th, 2019 Town Council meeting, a motion that the Town Council authorize the staff to advertise the request of proposals for the architectural engineering services relating to the library project, the conversion of the Belmont Market, was withdrawn with requests from councilors that they needed more time to study. The RFP has been prepared over months by the Town Engineering Department with input from the trustees, OLIS, and members of the community. Please note that without an RFP for architectural services, the town would not be able to build out the new library, obtain OLIS reimbursement, and raise money to support of the new library. On January 14, 2019, a public workshop was held. Karen Meller, Chief of Library Services at OLIS, presented information to the council indicating that she had reviewed the project and agreed with the trustees. She said that she expected that the library would receive a 43% reimbursement of construction costs at the newly acquired library site at the Belmont. Although advertised at a public workshop and although the town council was filled with residents, no comment from the public was allowed by Councilor Mannix. Because of the January 14th public workshop did not allow for public comment, the trustees held another public workshop on January 16th, inviting the town council and allowed members of the community to speak to the town council. On January 18th of 2019, the town changed the locks on the Belmont building, which prohibited the trustees from gaining any access to the recently purchased building designated as the home of the new Narragansett Public Library. At the January 22nd, 2019 Town Council meeting, Council President Mannix placed upon the agenda a motion to offer for sale the real property located at the former Belmont IGA building and the liquor store space, 68 parking spaces, and public access described in the purchase and sales agreement approved by the town on March 5th, 2018, and executed on March 12th of 2018. The motion passed 3-2 with Councilors Mannix, Lawler, and Lima voting yes. At the February 4th, 2019 Town Council meeting, a motion to reconsider the sale of the new library location was deemed by Mark Davis, Town Solicitor, to be invalid. At the February 19th, 2019 Town Council meeting, Councilors Lawler placed upon the agenda a motion that the Town Council directs the Town Manager to research expanded hours and programming at the Community Center, which passed 3-2 with Councilors Mannix, Lawler, and Lima voting yes. The Rhode Island Library
Thank you.
Association. Okay.
And I do remember when that was continued, that RFP, and I know that Jill and Ricky and other council members met with OLIS and met with bond counsel. And I also know that when we had the work session here in this same room, that there really was no sense of resolution, and that's why I chose to put the motion to sell on, because there was no sense of resolution on the issue.
Deb Kopek, Point Judith Road. The Rhode Island Library Association sent the Town Council an email cautioning the Town Council about interfering in library programming. Councilor Mannix replies that your email is both unwelcome and inappropriate, end quote. He denied that the motion included moving library programs, even though the motion summary stated as such and was posted on the Secretary of State website for all, including RILA, to see. One of the major talking points of the Town Council majority of Councilors Mannix, Lawler, and Lima has been that the voters really didn't support or were not aware when they voted 2-1 in favor of the $5.8 million library bond that the intent was to purchase the Belmont as the site of a new public library. In response to this continued assertion, Councilors Murray and Pugh placed upon the February 19, 2019 Town Council agenda a motion that the Town Council adopt a resolution authorizing a special election to be scheduled on Tuesday, May 7, 2019. This motion was defeated by the majority of Councilors Mannix, Lawler, and Lima. At the March 4, 2019 Town Council meeting, Councilor Mannix placed upon the agenda a motion, quote, that the Town Council authorize the staff to issue a request for proposals, RFP, for architectural engineering services related to the renovation of the Maury Lynch's Memorial Library to bring the existing library building into compliance with fire and ADA codes, but which would result in an actual decrease in space available for library functions. The motion passed 3-2 with Councilors Mannix, Lawler, and Lima voting yes. The town solicitor commented that under the town charter, the interior space of the library is directly under the trustees' control and not under town council control. Councilor Mannix asserted that this RFP is not in violation of the charter. It should be noted that Mr. Davis' characterization, rather than Mr. Mannix's assertion, appears to be consistent with sections 42-22, power and duties of the town charter. Thank you.
Robert Shields, 37 Earls Court. I'm going to continue what happened in 2019. At the March 4th meeting of the Town Council, an agenda item sponsored by Councilors Pugh and Murray stated that the Town Council direct the manager, the town manager, to hire a mediation service to work with the Town Council and the Library Board of Trustees in an effort to settle the disagreement over the library's expansion project. That was voted down by 2-3, Mannix, Lawler, and Lima voting no. On April 3rd, on April 7th, the trustees voted an RFP for architectural services for the new library as the ex-Gilbane Marketplace building included, and also included the second floor. The trustees received 27 inquiries and received 7 written responses. The short-term related firms submitting applications were to have been interviewed within 3 months, but that was impossible due to the subsequent Town Council actions. During April 15th, a budget workshop was held which reduced the annual funding for the library from $841,000 to $400,000. Since the town was no longer contributing to the level funding, the library trustees expect that OLS would no longer provide the grant of $181,000. On May 5th, the Town Council meeting, Councilors Jesse Pugh and Patrick Murray moved that regretfully required an up or down vote by the Town Council. The grant, the trustees
permission, that they grant to the trustees permission to have access to the Belmont Market.
Thank you, Mr. Shields.
Thank you.
Amanda Moss, 36 Flintstone Road. At the May 20, 2019 Town Council meeting, Councilors Murray and Pugh made a motion to request an up and down vote by this Town Council to publicly advertise and market and conduct a competitive and public offer process for the sale of the new library location at the Belmont Marketplace. This motion failed on a 2-3 vote, with Councilors Mannix, Lawler, and Lima voting no. Also, at the May 20, 2019 Town Council meeting, a motion was made at the request of Library Director Patty Arkwright that the Town Council approve partial repairs to the roof of the Maury Luncheon's Memorial Library in an amount not to exceed $25,100. It passed on a 3-2 vote, with Councilors Lawler and Lima voting no. On the June 17, 2019 Town Council meeting, the town engineer, under the direction of Council President Mannix, placed upon the agenda a motion to award the bid for, quote, architectural/engineering services, Maury Luncheon's Memorial Library renovation project, end quote, to Sacoccio and Associates Architects in the amount of $15,050 for the building and building systems evaluation report. But curiously, no motion was made and no action taken. At the July 15, 2019 Town Council meeting, Councilors Murray and Pugh made a motion to request a professional appraisal for the Belmont Marketplace, the liquor store space, 68 parking spaces, and public access. The motion failed on a 2-3 vote, with Councilors Mannix, Lawler, and Lima voting no. At the August 5th, 2019 Town Council meeting, a motion to determine a list and/or asking price for the Belmont Marketplace, the liquor store space, 68 parking spaces, and public access failed 2-3, with Councilors Mannix, Lawler, and Lima voting no. At the August 5th, 2019 Town Council meeting, a motion to adopt a resolution of recognition and appreciation for the Murray Family Charitable Foundation, making a $500,000 pledge towards the construction of the new library at the Belmont location, failed 2-3, with Councilors Mannix, Lawler, and Lima voting no. To repeat, the majority voted against a resolution thanking a member of our community for making a wonderful and generous pledge. Thank you.
Ann Familetti, 73 Montauk Road. At the August 19, 2019 Town Council meeting, a motion from Councilor Lawler to approve the sale and enter into a purchase and sale agreement of the space currently occupied by Pier Liquors and 9 parking spaces, and the sale of the second floor space of the old Belmont IGA building to DSM Pier Realty for the price of $735,000. During discussion, Councilor Pugh pointed out that President Mannix spoke to the Narragansett Times Town Council reporter on Thursday, August 15th, and disclosed details of the agreement, having spoken one-on-one with the reporter before the agenda was made public to the council or public. He said that action was inappropriate and outside the rules of executive session.
That's actually incorrect. So thank you, but I clarified that night.
Councilor Pugh.
I think it's probably correct.
No, it's not in an editorial by the paper was written basically telling you that you didn't understand. Thank you. Right. I can share it with you. I can read that into the record, right?
Okay.
There's a lot of misstatements being said tonight. Everyone at home, everyone realized that.
Councilor Pugh further stated that throughout negotiations, there had never been a meeting between the full council and Pier Liquors owners. With a large crowd in attendance, the majority of whom opposed the sale, the motion passed on a 3-2 vote.
Carleen Town, 240 Wood Hill Road. At the September 3rd, 2019 Town Council meeting, a motion again from Councilor Lawler to approve the sale and authorize the town to enter into a purchase and sales agreement for the sale of the former Belmont IGA building to Carlos Muta, a Connecticut developer doing business as PKV LLC, for the price of $2,070,145. According to the terms of the P&S, Mr. Muta would pay the town $50,000 upon signing of the P&S and $700,000 upon closing. The terms of the P&S provided an interest-only loan from the town with a balloon payment due in 3 years. It should be noted that the prospective developer was not present, and the majority of the town council appeared to act as his agents. The town solicitor stated that Mr. Muta filed for bankruptcy in 2015. Solicitor Davis, when asked by Councilor Murray, stated the town required no proof of funds. No business plan was put forward by Mr. Muta. Mr. Mannix stated in his summary to the motion that the buyer intends to complement surrounding businesses, not to compete with them. When asked by Councilor Pugh about incorporating a non-compete clause so as not to harm local businesses, Mr. Mannix stated his summary was based only on opinion, and no facts supporting the opinion were offered. Michael Kelly, speaking as the legal counsel for Gilbane, characterized the proposed transaction as a bait and switch, stating this intense commercial operation would violate the intent and sale by Gilbane to the town and violates the intent of the discount given to the town on the maintenance agreement. He stated that his client would pursue legal action. Following large public comment, the majority opposing the sale of the building, the motion passed 3-2. On September 24, 2019, a lawsuit was filed in Washington County Superior Court against the town of Narragansett by plaintiffs by a grassroots coalition of local residents who formed a legal entity named Love Your Library. The complaint seeks to stop the sale of both the former Belmont IGA building to an out-of-state developer and of the liquor store parcel to Pier Liquors, asserting that any such sale would cause harm to the community and is contrary to the public will as expressed through the approval of the 2016 bond. Thank you.
Ellen Kramer, 109 Westmoreland Street. On September 26, 2019, the plaintiff, Love Your Library, and the defendant, Town of Narragansett, into a joint stipulation issued by Judge Lemfier enjoining the Town of Narragansett to not sell, convey, transfer, or lease its title or interest in the property identified as Narragansett Tax Assessor's Map /Lot C-181-1A and 1B, commonly known as the Belmont Building, without agreement of the parties or until further order of the court, whichever occurs first. And further, upon approval of the court, the parties agree that this case may be consolidated for purposes of discovery and trial with a companion case entitled GP Pier Retail, LLC versus the Town of Narragansett, WC-2019-0499. In other words, Gilbane filed their own lawsuit against the Town of Narragansett, and that lawsuit will be combined with the Love Your Library lawsuit. At the October 17, 2019 council meeting, voter initiative petitions relating to the use of the bond money, selling town property, and creating a recall provision in the town charter were passed. These referenda, signed by thousands of registered voters, will appear on the November 2020 ballot. And they came about due to the frustration and the subversion of the will of the voters who passed the library bond by 68% majority. Also, at that meeting on October 7th, Councilors Pugh and Murray motioned to direct the town manager to authorize the transfer of $414,743 from the town reserve funds to the Maury Lugents Memorial Library to reinstitute funds cut by the majority of the town council on May 6, 2019. These funds were needed to reestablish the maintenance of effort belonging to remain eligible for the $181,000 in state funding. The motion failed on a 2-to-3 vote, thereby by putting the state aid at risk. At October 21, 2019 meeting, Councilor Mannix announced that Carlos Muta, the Connecticut developer, informed the town he would not be signing the purchase and sale agreement for the property of the town owned, known as the former Belmont Building.
Nancy DiNuccio, 8 Vanderbilt Drive, Narragansett. In conclusion, the Maury Lugents Memorial Library Board has an affirmative obligation to serve the people of Narragansett by creating the best library possible. Individuals on the MLM board have proven their civic dedication and devotion to the library as an educational institution and strive to increase the service to the community on an ongoing basis. As such, the Library Board is committed to fundraising for the acquisition and outfitting of the Belmont Building, as well as the continued operation of said library. The people of Narragansett and the many seasonal visitors who use facilities in this town visit our library at a rate of 14,000 per month. The voters have endorsed the expansion and modernization of the town library by voting in the 2016 election 67.9% for the Belmont Project bond. It is now time to acknowledge that libraries are an integral part of any free society, encouraging education, information access, and increasing knowledge within the community. It is time to move forward with a project endorsed as viable by the state, which can award up to 50% of the project costs. It is time to move forward with a private foundation which withheld aid until our physical space shortage was addressed. This private group, who called the project right up our alley and had gifted the Tiverton Library project with nearly $1 million. It is time to acknowledge those who live in our community and have pledged to financially support the vision of a new library. And it is time to acknowledge the community members who, in clear and unequivocal vote in 2016, embraced this project and the method of paying for it. Please move forward today. The community of Narragansett believes in the democratic vote of 2016 and implore you, once again, the Town Council, to obey the will of the people and build the Narragansett Library project in the old Belmont Building.
Sue Ann Maruso, West Bay Drive. I'm not part of the narrative, but I have related issues. I had spoken before about one of the claims that we are not fiscally able because we want to keep us on a sound basis. But I did mention before that we have a year-round population of 16,000 people, and our library is 8,000 square feet. Block Island, I mentioned, is in the bottom quarter with us as far as tax rates, and they have 1,000 year-round residents, and they've got 9,400 square feet. Jamestown, I looked into, my former community. They have a year-round population of 5,000, and they have 11,000 square feet, and they are going through OLIS to get the reimbursement to expand, and they already qualify for the Rhode Island Foundation, Champlain Foundation grants, all these things that we can't take advantage of. I was traveling. Woodstock, Vermont has a year-round population of 3,000. I asked there, 11,000 square feet. They're expanding. Walpole, New Hampshire, 4,000 residents. Theirs was 9,600 feet, and they're trying to add another 4,000. And it took them about 5 years to raise $1 million for this project. And here we are with the Terrence Murray Foundation offering us $500,000. We have pretty much raised the matching amount, so we're sitting on $1 million. And I just can't understand that. So this fiscal thing just doesn't make sense to me. And also, there's kind of like something that I'm trying to figure out why this is happening. And after watching on tape the exchange, shall I put it, between Mr. Mannix and Laurie Kelly, I was appalled, and the people that were watching with me were like, this is unbelievable. And I find this thread of labeling people by who they are married to, particularly women, to border on discrimination. And I don't think we need to call any religious person into claim here from the background. I just find, and it was done with someone else, Jesse's wife, who I didn't even know it was your wife, Jesse. I don't see that it makes any difference. A woman speaking up here is identified by that so-and-so's wife, or even a man. It shouldn't be, well, that one's related to this one, or that's the person, or we come up here to speak as residents. We are not to be attached to anyone else. And I think that you're underestimating the power of women in this group. The GFWC founded on 75.
Thank you, Susan.
Okay,
and
75%.
I really resent that comment. I think so I'm going to
It's
just say that for the
happened
record.
twice. I know you can
thank
resent
you.
it.
Thank you.
And to be not so much.
It goes to Mrs. Garceau has politely had her hand up
All right.
since that parade that we just had. So Mrs. Garceau, let's come forward.
Well,
Thank you.
I just needed to let you know my thoughts.
Richard, can we have Mrs. Garceau? I'm going to have Mrs. Garceau come up, please. Mrs. Garceau, please, who actually had her hand raised.
I apologize. I didn't know you had to get in line. I thought you would recognize this with our hand up. Thank you. First of all, it's great in America where people can come before you and speak accordingly what they feel they are entitled to do that. Thank you. But at the same time, I have to say, as a resident and a taxpayer of Narragansett, I haven't been in the library in years. There's no need for me to go. I have a computer, I get all the information I have, but at the time that I used the library, when I lived in Woonsocket at the time, I even had my picture taken when I was a mother with children sitting at a table and put in the paper for utilizing the library. It was a fantastic place for research, and quietness. That's what I got out of it, and I'm grateful for that. I think we do need a library, but to the extent of what they're proposing, I find it unacceptable, and the taxpayers are going to pay dearly in the future. And I'm making reference to how we obtained the Briggs Farm sewers. It was a ballot question which was voted down, and how it was put up was against the voters in Briggs Farms. We had another election with another ballot, and it passed, and we're still paying for it. And there was money put into it for connections, etc. There was a line that went from Briggs Farms all the way to Scarborough Beach, cost millions of dollars. And today, that was also a bond, and we're still paying for it. At the same time, I have to say, I have a question for the board. Are we going to have an election again where the people can vote again in reference to all this change in election? In other words, can we vote on this, where it's going and how much we're going to spend?
That's been discussed, but right now there is not anything on that.
Well, it would be a good idea if you gave it back to the voters, because it's my understanding, and I do believe, is that when the town voted on the library, for the library way back then, a lot of us didn't know what the heck was going on and for what reasons. And in my mind, there was no thing for paying for a library in Belmont building. That building for the library needs to go back in its old place or go to the school and save the taxpayers money.
Thank you.
May I add? I'm sorry, but you know, you never put my name up there on that clock. How come?
You wouldn't let me. I asked you permission to call that the Garceau clock, and you wouldn't let me.
You know something? People have talked to me about that clock. And
I tell everybody.
And they're honored.
Is it
They're
Joe?
honored that I did that. Thank you.
All right, so that's your approval.
Thank
No
you.
witnesses.
Ms. Garceau, you did ask about if there was going to be another election.
Yes,
So we did have an agenda item earlier in the summer.
but I'm over my time. Is
Well,
it okay?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I don't
So-
want to go over my time.
On the clock.
So that was an agenda item to vote on the location to see if people really wanted it to be at the Belmont building to
Yeah.
really second that idea.
Yeah.
And that got voted down this year. So that was something that we were discussing.
So it's not coming.
It's not going on right now.
Okay, okay. But the way it is now, it should be done in a way that's appropriate, cheap, and not go to the extravagance of
And
putting it in the building.
Mrs. Garceau, to add to that, in 2016, I suggested that we add that onto the ballot, and at that time, the TC3, Mr. Murray, Mr. Moretti, and Susan Bonanno declined to put it on the ballot. Matt and I wanted to.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I applaud you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, could I ask
thank
one
you.
more question? One, please.
We're going to come to Rich.
Just one.
We're going to go to Richard now. All
Okay,
right. Thank you.
Another time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is unscripted, but we failed at the prior council, and maybe even this council failed when it did not keep the library property committee. All of this would not have happened if we had a library committee, project committee, that would have looked at cost and structure. This is the same with the bike path. At the last meeting, I attended, and I will attend Wednesday's meeting again, and I tell you again, any capital project must have from the beginning a solid properties committee that is going to look at the structure and the dollar cost of this. What I am very, very concerned about on the bike path is that we will not be able to complete it for $3 million, and we're going to be stuck with that in the town of Narragansett, because the state said you wanted to run it, and I'm assuming we're still running the project. Maybe we're not, but I think we are. If we do any capital project without a very strong properties committee to analyze each point, we are really doing a lousy job. And I will tell you that this library would have been built by now if we could have kept it to what the taxpayers voted on it, the old IGA market, not that second floor crap or the liquor store. A good, strong properties committee would have said no. They would have had a public meeting in which we could have seen the facts and the figures. We would have gone up to the shuffleboard court, and all of us would have said no. And I congratulate Matt, Jill, and Rick for having enough guts to say this is a lousy deal.
Thank you.
I took a walk. My name's Robert Combs. I live in Narragansett.
And I took a walk down to the library today to use a printer. I couldn't even get near the building because it was so crowded with the rehearsal. All these people out here were down there. Every car, every parking spot in the town, because they were doing their rehearsal. So you guys could have gone down there this morning and listened to this for 2 hours. Yes, you did.
Don't yell out, please.
Yes, you did. So don't tell me. I know I walked in the door and I saw a y'all. So, I mean, I walk by there every day with my dogs. There's nobody there. If they're getting 14,000 people a month in there, they're going in one door, out the door, and back in the front, because they ain't getting 14,000 people a month. So, and I haven't heard anybody for them come up here and say why that building is such a good idea. I've heard a bunch of this one, that one, and assessments and this and that, but I haven't heard one person in construction come up here and say that building will work out great. So I know you guys hire Abcor to do stuff. Maybe he'll want to come up here and stand here and say, oh, that's a perfect place, but I don't think he will, because I know it's not. The other thing is the parking down there. The parking's terrible. They don't get it. The average person, that building was built for a supermarket where people go in for 15 minutes and come back out. These guys go into the library, they're there for hours. They don't go in and come out. You're not going to have parking there. What are you going to do on Sundays? You're going to have someone police the thing so nobody can park from the beach? Who's going to get rid of the snow? Who's going to shovel the sidewalks? They're going to come back to the town. The town is going to have to take care of everything. Yes, don't tell me. You're not going to get down there and shovel the sidewalks. Gilbane is selling everything. Gilbane is selling everything. I think Mike, what's his name, is buying from him instead. Mato, he's buying Gilbane stuff. So they got a lot of ideas, and the history lesson is fine. I wish we could tape it and just, play that somewhere else instead of wasting our time every week with this. We've heard it a million times, December this and this. Well, I'm giving you November 4th, 2019. I couldn't get in the door to use a printer. You know why? Because they were doing a rehearsal. That's it. And they can say no, they can say anything they want. They can tell me a truck driver makes $100,000 a year, a master's librarian makes minimum wage. Well, I never heard of minimum wage being $90,000. So, right?
Thank you.
What's minimum wage?
Thank you very much. Thank you.
$10, $15? Not $90.
All right, Meg and then Stanley.
Good evening, Meg Rogers, 68 Earls Court. Sitting here tonight, Council President, I heard you apparently you conducted some sort of mathematical analysis with the town clerk of the number of hours that would be possibly expended by the town staff in order to bring about the change that was sought to change the elections from nonpartisan to partisan. I think you said it would take 83 hours of staff time. And I thought that was an interesting and possibly well-taken point. But then it occurred to me, listening to that, how incredibly hollow that statement was coming from you. Because if you were genuinely concerned with the amount of staff time that's expended, what about the decade, the thousands of hours of staff time that's been expended by engineers, planners, clerks, lawyers, you name it, in our town to do that decade of work to build our new public library? So that was a very empty comment. And it is sad, as a resident of Rhode Island, that I have to observe Senator Jack Reed hold a meeting at the Cranston Library with the Librarian of Congress. And at that meeting, library advocates throughout our state gathered to hold a public forum on the future of public libraries. And at that forum also, Senator Reid encouraged Rhode Islanders to participate in the recently launched Veterans History Project that will be happening in libraries throughout America. He recognizes, as do most of our elected officials, the absolute vital role that libraries play in every community. So that's happening on the statewide level, but here in Narragansett, our little library is still not in compliance with the American Disabilities Act. Our budget was cut 50% in a punitive action, and we're still at risk of losing our state funding. And that is a tragic, tragic thing. And it is because of the majority 3 in our town council. So thank you.
Sandwich Narragansett. Over the years, I guess I commend all the work everyone's done over the years. However, I guess the turning point, financial status changes over the years. And the turning point for me came when the state treasurer, Magaziner, he had some financial group, professional financial people, make an analysis. And they said that we really can't afford a bond. The bond monies, we can't afford them. Any bonding that has to happen, we need bonding availability for the infrastructure. So we don't have the bonds. He said specifically that North Kingston and South Kingston were okay, but specifically called out Narragansett that we have to save our money for our infrastructure and that we don't have an excessive bond availability. So we'd have the bucks. Therefore, there's got to be another route to follow, and that another method of payment. And I think Terrence Murray found that. All these library people have to go out and find another $7 or $8 million people to go out there and fund what they want. The taxpayers in this town cannot afford it, and I commend you for realizing that, but we can't afford it. And it's not said from me, or this is said from some professionals hired by a state. They had a professional analysis made. So it's not just a maybe whatever. So therefore, I think I would like to see more people go out there, get these millionaires to continue to get the dollars to do it. Just let them get the dollars to do it. And I commend Councilman Murray. You got the deed, and you got the deed and all that stuff squared away. So now we could possibly use that site. That's good. At least you did some groundwork there. Although I'm worried about maintenance fees still coming up from a lawyer. Is he going to come with some maintenance fees in the future? If he's done it one time, he might do it again. I'm worried about that a little bit. But we've got to focus on the gifting idea and not the taxpayer idea. That's not available. The taxpayer can't afford it, according to the experts. Thank you.
All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0.
Smoke 'em if you got 'em.